And good morning, buddy. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. Digital Dragon, 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. Do everything from printer unboxings like our X1Cs over here, or our Creality K1C right here, to full up printer builds, morons, prototyping like the box turtle, trad rack, and various hot ends, and just all around 3D printing fun. Welcome on in, Chewy. Hey, Solar 3DP, how's it going? Welcome in. Welcome on in. Hope you guys are having a good start to your Easter weekend. We're going to be streaming for a little bit here, and as soon as Mrs. Dragon gets back from her meeting that she's got today, meeting, get together, whatever that she's got today, we'll be ending the stream and heading on a trip over to Goldsboro to see my parents and niece. Yeah, hope everybody's doing well today. Hopefully, we're going to be done with our baby belt today, or at least pretty darn close. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Um, this is basically where we left off. We had our base built. I have, pulled the extra roller off that we had sitting there because we're going to be taking a couple steps back, adding our belt in, and then we'll just keep going. We've got our gantry built. Now, one thing I did off stream, you'll notice that here's our color scheme. We've got the blue and the magenta, and our tensioning brackets here are a straight up red. Those are red ABS prints, the same color that we used for the uh, heated bed mount here. It's just red Bamboo Lab ABS. The reason that is in red ABS, I tried printing the parts in the magenta PET G, and I printed them 3 or 4 times in different orientations, and every single time they broke on the layer lines as I was trying to get things uh, uh, put together and then the hinges pieces put in. So I got fed up and I was like, let me try ABS because I have that loaded up and I'm not going to have a PLA red that's close enough that would match anything else on the build. And the ABS parts came out great and they seem to be a lot stronger than that G parts that I was getting. Uh, so we've got a little bit of tension here on the X belt. Our Y belt's good to go. Like I said, we're going to step back just a smidge here and we'll do our belt piece. Actually, no, we're going to keep going on with this and we'll, as soon as we mount the gantry, then we'll add our belt piece in. This is the belt material that Mrs. Dragon picked out. I think it's going to go well with our Royal Highness blue and the Magic magenta. This was the second attempt at making a belt. The first time I followed the directions to a T, 5 by 15 inch belt length. Well, 5 width, 15 length, and 5 width, 15 1/4 inch length for the backing material. You'll see I got a pretty good lineup on the backing material there on the two ends of the loop. But when I came around to the front, I was short on material, and that is a little bit less than 1/4 inch. So obviously, my backing material that Mrs. Dragon picked up for me did not shrink as much as anticipated. You also see where I kind of started getting a little bit off on my belt. So what I did for the next go around, I cut my backing material 5 inches by 15 1/4 inches, but on the material, I oversized it. I cut it 6 inches by about 15 1/2 inches. So what that allowed me to do is to get my um, backing material loop made, get it started in the middle of the material and then slowly work my way both sides. And as I got close to doing the joint, then I was able to get rid of any frays. And you'll see that I had a little gap right here, but according to what I see in the belt making guide, that's going to be perfectly fine. And that left me oversized on the edges. So I just came in with some very small scissors that I used for my counted cross stitch and was able to cut the edges. Now, the edges aren't perfect, right? They're not a perfect straight line there, but they're going to be good enough because you're never going to be printing to the all the way to the edge of your belt, or at least I seriously doubt you will be. So that's going to be fine. I've got enough material. We got these, I think they're kind of like supersized squares. So the material we bought at Hobby Lobby, I want to say was 18 by 21 inches, which means you should be able to get 3 of these belt patterns out so that you can have a couple of goes at it and at the very least have a couple of spare belts. So that's what my plan's going to be. I'm going to make at least one more of these belts so I'll have a spare belt ready to go at any given point. Okay. So let me switch over to the browser. Okay. And this is where we're going to start off. So we've got our XY gantry completely built out. The side part got printed out, so I installed that and we went ahead and did the belt. This side, same thing, rinse and repeat. I did leave this side belt a little bit long. That way, if I needed to do some maintenance, if a piece broke or whatever, I should be able to still reuse this belt and get everything hooked up in the same way. So we're now going to start bolting everything together and wrapping up the build. We're going to start by installing the Bowden tube. So install the Bowden tube in the carriage and install the locking clip behind the collet. It might be easier to loosen the tension on your belt if you can't get your fingers in there to get your collet on. So me bring you folks down in here a little bit. So once again, we've got a length of Bowden tube here. And this is, I'll say, a standard, what should be a standard 2 mil wall. Not sure if you can tell that hole, get it to go up on camera. Little off center. Shouldn't be a big deal, but it is a little bit off center. I'm going to try and get this to stretch and unbend just a little bit. Again, Bowden tube goes in, push down all the way in. We'll take our blue collet clip that we had set aside, and we'll see if we can get that installed behind that collet. And like they said, if we need to, we can loosen the tension on our belt. Might make it a little bit easier to get big fingers in there to get this clip in underneath the collet. Clip in and see if I can't rotate it some. Okay. We'll tension that belt back up. collet clip needs to kind of be rotated either front or back. If it goes off to the side, it's going to interfere with the belt path. So kind of trying to rotate it around slightly one way or the other. Doesn't interfere with the belt path. Okay. That should be good. And there we have it with the collet. Whoop. There we go. Got our little blue collet clip in down here. PTFE tube is now locked in. Hey, Eagle the Dragon, how's it going this morning? Welcome on in. Now it wants us to prep the base of the printer with a pair of zip ties and install them just to make it a little bit easier. And then we're going to start routing all of our wires through. Yeah, so what it's telling us to do is on our base here, in these two spots, we're going to be able to wrap some zip ties in there. And these are actually just slots, so there's not a, not like we're going in this way. We're literally going through the slot, and we'll be able to come around the top of our piece there. Make that a little bit easier. Swap these around. I'm really not sure if this is 100% needed at this point, but we'll get a couple of these laid in there. Solid to make a very loose loop, not cinch them down just yet. Okay, I got it. And then there's what they're telling us to do is at this spot right here, you'll see there's a loop. And it wants us to get some zip ties ready right there. Getting ready for an early Easter dinner. Nice. It does say to get this started and get a loop going and basically just leave a big loop there. So we'll get our baby. Come on. There we go. I'll just go ahead and get that loop started right there and just leave it way big so that we'll be able to run cables through it. We'll put 4 nuts in, and what we're going to do is be putting a nut here and here. We'll do that on both sides of the printer. Now I only have 3 nuts left, so I'll reach over and grab some out of, I've got 2 nuts left now because one of them's down there on the floor. Good thing is I have a few hundred of them over here. So it's not like I'll be hurting for M3 nuts. So we'll want to make sure that these go all the way down in there. So let's grab our little 1.5 and make sure that they're pushed down all the way in there. And lined up. And they appear to be. use an Allen key to make sure that they're there. I've basically done that. Hey, good morning, Timor. How's it going? We just recently gotten started. Now comes the fun part. We get to install the gantry onto the base. Put the gantry onto the base so that the two upper holes in the X end plates, so we're doing these two upper holes here. And then we can check and do either a 30-degree or 45-degree angle. I'm going to do the 45-degree. I think that's the more typical. And our end pieces here will go on the outside edge. So I'm just going to set that down there. I'll grab some M3 by 20s. We're going to need a total of 4 of these. One going from this side. Yep. Everybody say hi, Mrs. Dragon.
Hi.
Hold on.
Hi.
Hey.
All right, I gotta go.
All right. Have fun. Timor says hello. Your brother says hello.
Very
nice. Okay. Solar, thank you. So we're just screwing this in and making sure it goes through that nut and comes out the other side. Not going to tighten it all the way down just yet. We need to get the other side going. Okay, so the top two are in, and once again, based on how we do the last two the screws on your side, we can either do a 30-degree angle or a 45-degree angle. I'm going to do a 45-degree angle. If you do a 30-degree angle, you're going to lose some some Y height. So I think I'm going to go with the 45. It's a little bit more traditional. Of course, the big thing here is trying to get it lined up with the hole that I have absolutely no idea how to see. Lift that all the way up, see if that lines up. Seems to be. Now these M3 by 20s go a little bit proud, meaning they're sticking out the inside of the printed parts. I think technically M3 by 18s would be better here because they wouldn't stick out. However, that would then mean needing to add yet another screw to the bomb. And as we saw here, this had very few differences in the types of screws that were used. Seem to be not lining up with the hole over here. Where do you want to go? Oh, which way? Seriously. Hey, Bearded Printer, how's it going? Welcome on in. Okay, so I got one side in, and this side I can't seem to find the hole. Oh, yeah. We go into the right hole, I bet you it'll work. Yeah, look at that. Go into the 45-degree hole instead of the 30-degree hole, and it probably works a lot better. There we go. Yeah, like I said, if we use some 18mm screws here, I think they would fit a little bit better and they wouldn't stick out. But we're going to go with what's here. It should be fine. There's going to be nothing in that area that would catch anyhow. It's just more of a, I prefer not to have screws coming out the inside of a printed part. But yes, happy Easter Saturday, Daddy Wazzy. How's it going, my friend? Mrs. Dragon just swung by and made an appearance and brought us our Dunkin'. So got our coffee to get us started this morning. Happy Kill the Bunny Day. Yep. And by kill the bunny, you just mean eat the chocolate bunnies, right? Now, what angle do you want to print at? Once again, it's easily changeable later between the two. Basically, you just pull out these M3 by 20 on each side, and you can rotate it down to the other holes. So you can easily switch between 30 and 45-degree print angles. Okay. The to-do here is information on why 45 and 30 are both options, pros and cons, auto sensing angles, and such. We're going to take our PTFE tube and connect it in to our extruder over here. Here we go. Once again, this is fully to the left, all the way up and down. So you see that we're pretty good as far as our loop on our PTFE cable or tube here. Put the bone tube into the extruder, secure it with a clip. Was there a clip? I don't think there was, but hold on. I've got a ton of them in here, so we'll just grab one. And we'll throw a clip on it. Just like that. Now we got a clip on it. Now we assemble the hotend bed and underbed. If you not wish to use the hotbed, put the part in upside down. There's the wiring stuff. I think before we go and do the bed, I think we're going to route our wires and get those installed. So our wires here, we're just going to bring them through our opening and bring those around. Now this is the top motor I just ran through, which will be our Y. So we're going to connect this into the Y motor slot. And this is why I'm trying to do it now, is just because if we actually install the bed, then we're going to have to take the bed back off in order to get to these wires. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Bring the X through. X is the lower of our two motors on our gantry. Of course, that goes into the first connector here. Okay. Then we'll have all of our tool head wires. And I believe what we're going to do is I'm going to get some sleeving material. I'm going to have to get some more sleeving material. I'm going to sleeve this together. I'm going to bring it down and around, join it with these, sleeve it all down, and bring it in together. For now, we're going to take these one at a time. We've got our hot end wires. Guys, go there. Have our hot end wires. And I'm thinking they may have actually wanted us to bring all of these through this upper loop that we put in place here. Kind of hard to see how they want us to route stuff. I'll make sure that we go up and through that upper loop. I'll kind of try and see if I can get a better angle here in just a second to show you what I'm doing. Okay. So we're bringing our cables around through the front cutout here, looping them through this loop that we made on this top tie down here. And then we're bringing it around and plugging it into the board. And we're going to do this for all of our wires. And this is going to come down, come through here. Now this is our heater wires. So they're going to come all the way through and get attached to our main board over here on our screw down terminal. Now what I'm trying to see is this is the furthest point, and will this enable us to come down and do our little thing? Seems like it will, so that's good. What we do need to do is take the end off here and put ferrules on this because this is going to be a screw down terminal. That's the only thing that we really need to change out for that. Roll down to our wire here. The hot end, so it goes on the right hand side, and side's positive and which side's negative. Not that it matters. Let me grab my ferrule kit. Ugh. So how's everybody doing this morning? Have you seen how much rabbit costs these days? No, I have not because I haven't looked at it, but I've seen what the cost of just about everything is these days. Not getting cheaper, that's for sure. Going to depin this so I can keep as much of this wire length as possible. snip these right underneath the existing crimps. And keep as much wire length as possible here. And I'm not going to strip as much of this as I normally would when doing ferrules because I know I'm going to cut the ferrules down anyhow. So it's not like it needs to be huge long like that. Hey Bean Wilkes, how's it going? These are 20 gauge wire, so we'll use our gray ones. So this is a known with the kit. This is a, this is the way the stock hot end, the stock hot end for the kit comes with these JST connectors on it because it's really designed to go into a tool head board. But we're going into the MCU directly. One, other side. Crimp. We're going to cut the last segment off of that ferrule crimp. And that just shortens these up ever so slightly to make it easier to get into the screw down terminal. Now, close the ferrules up because we don't want to knock those over and have to resort them again. I don't think we'll have to do another ferrule on the bed. No, we won't. We'll have to do a JST as we shorten that bed wire down tremendously. Where's my screwdriver? And this goes into, this is the hot end, so we're going into the rightmost one here. Back these all the way off. All right, I know this makes for good content when my hand's right in the way, but it's kind of the only way I can do it too. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, so this is the blue is Greengate 3D recycled PET G, Your Royal Highness, and then the magenta up here is Greengate 3D recycled. It's called Magic Magenta, and I believe this is fluorescent. So if I hit it with a black light, it should glow. So far, what we can see here from wiring perspective, we've got our hot end, the hot end connected. We've got our 3 jumpers installed. We have our TFT screen connected. We've got the X, Y, Z, and E motors now plugged in. Next up, let's grab the hot end. What we got? Hot end thermistor. Let's do that one. That's the one that's going to be coming out. I don't want to say a little wonky, but it's coming out the side. It does have a JST connector, so we'll route it through there, through the other looped wire tie. This is our thermistor, and the thermistor goes into the first thermistor jack here. So we'll do that. First thermistor jack. Okay. Then we'll have the, what we got? This one is the hot end cooling fan. And our hot end fan, oh, duh, that's not where that goes. That's the fan one. The hot end thermistor is going to go all the way down here on the very right. This comes all the way down here. Like so. This was the hot end fan. Hot end fan now goes up here where I tried to put the thermistor. Which means our last fan comes around. And is going to go into the JST that's right underneath it. So there's going to be one JST 2-pin connector between the terminal plug. So that one's getting left open, and then we're going into that one right beneath it. Okay, both the positives are on the left side, negatives are on the right. Let me see if we got some silk screening on here so I can verify the polarity on those. Yes, positive on the left and ground on that side. So that's all done. No polarity on thermistor, no polarity on the hot end. And that is everything now except for the bed stuff. So once again, what we're going to have to do is get some sleeving. We're going to try and cinch this stuff down so we have as much, I'll say, gap as possible here. Looks like we might need to bring these around with the PTFE tube, and then we'll bring these over and add them in right towards the end. There is spots here for zip ties so that we can zip tie these wires up and out of the way. We'll add some zip ties up here at the top. And let me see if I can't show you where that's at. So we've got a tab here and a tab here so we can zip tie some wires up. This one's just going to be the part cooling fan. And then the next one, we'll go ahead and we'll loop all into one here. That'll just help keep our wires nice and neat. I will put some wire loom on this. I just don't have any. The kit did not come with any, and the stuff that I have is really big and bulky, so I need to get some smaller wire loom material. So for now, we'll leave our wires kind of out like this. We can maybe throw a couple of zip ties on it just to kind of hold some things together a little bit. Make it a little less blah. Not going to cinch it down all the way. We're just going to kind of do it to keep stuff from being unruly. How does that act? We'll bring this all the way over. That'll work. Join our motor wires into the fun here. Nothing like doing it opposite all the other ones you did. Now we do have some extra length here for the motor wires. I'm just going to pull that through. And we'll kind of just tuck it down there in the front. It'll be fairly out of the way. We've got the lower. How do I want to do this? How do we want to? This one. Here's. Whoop. We're going to grab the tail of this loop that's kind of holding things up. We'll give that a little bit of a cinch. We'll grab these wires once again and tuck them down out of the way. You catch. We want to tuck these down out of the way behind the screen, down in that front cavity there. Shoving our wires down here to get them out of the way. These wires, we can probably throw a zip tie on them right here just to keep them bundled, and we'll want to keep them, we'll say, down under our bed material. We've also got our zip tie here at the front where we're going to zip tie our cables at the front here. Some of these will be redone as I go in and put the cable sleeving on here. Got that one wire that just wants to do its own thing. Hey Rob, how's it going? Just sitting here trying to play with the cable tie here for the front. Now I noticed that there's no cable sleeving in the kit. So slight bummer there, but not a hard thing to get either. There we go. Trying to get our wires semi-managed here. I didn't get that in there and realize I've got it rolled. Flip it over. I'm going to hold off on that zip tie for now. How about that? That one will probably be easier once we get the cable sleeving on there. Because right now I'm just kind of fighting around, going several wires around each other. That off. That one. That one. That one. And that one. Okay. So we still haven't slipped the bed on. And we haven't done our belt yet, but that's coming. Well, and when I say we haven't done the belt yet, we have not installed the belt. We made the belt. So here's a suggestion, Rob. When I made my first belt, I followed your directions. Cut the cloth to 5 by 15 inches and the backing material to 5-inch by 15 and a quarter. And as you can see, my backing material didn't shrink up as much. So I would suggest leaving this long, and at the very end where you're leaving the little flap edges so that you can clear up any straggler and strays. That will let you do the final cut on one edge or both edges to get it to come together nicely. I mean, you still have a chance of not cutting 100% right, but and then the other thing I did was leave the cloth long. I cut it 6 inches, and that way, if you're not 100% straight, you're good because you can come in with some smaller scissors at the end and just kind of cut around and make the belt the right size. So those are two suggestions I have on making the belt. Definitely follow the directions on making the belt though, and make sure that you cut it in the proper orientation. Once again, one side of your material will be a little stretchy, one side will not be. The stretchy side needs to go the length of the belt, with the non-stretchy side as your width. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove these two N3 by 20s that we put in place to hold the ramp and stuff here. And what that'll let us do is just slide this ramp forward. Once again, because we never put the one down at the bottom. That'll let us pull the ramp out. And we'll be able to slide our belt around our material here. Like so. That back in place. That back in place. Tighten these up. I kind of like holding off till the end to do the belt because that makes getting in here and doing the majority of the wiring a lot easier. I know you say to leave this flapped over this way, which still gets you in there fairly easily, but less chance of snagging something on that belt too. Okay, so those two are in. Before I put the other roller in, what we also need to do is flip this over on its side. Careful of that gantry. We'll put in another hex nut in here. M3x20. Yeah, I just think it makes more sense to leave yourself a little bit of extra because that way every material is going to be different. Some and you know, you may get one, I'll say batch material. That was not the right hole. We're going into this one. So we're gonna put the nut in the appropriate slot. Make sure it's all the way in there. Then we'll put the screw in the actual correct spot. And that's now joining these two halves together and in the process going through the tab of this rear. So if you ever need to take the front or the rear off, it's one bolt and you can take that off without having to do anything. So if you're ever doing the belt, it's the side screw, the two front screws, and you can pop the ramp off to work on your belt if you need to, and the belt can completely come off that way. Okay, so now, I mean, this is pretty much what we're looking like. All we need to do is add our bed. So we'll come back and do that now. And unfortunately, the bed, there's no real easy way to get this in there. Get it in, get the wiring done, all that good stuff. Hey, Westry, how's it going, sis? Hope you're doing well. Drinking coffee, watching Luke and English soccer. That sounds like a perfect Saturday to me, Daddy Wazzy. Hey, Moji, how's it going? Sorry, I'm like having to look in here because that's red on black. It makes it so much harder. Need more coffee. Yep, get some. Exactly. We'll be here for a while. Isn't this glorious? Yes. Mrs. Dragon stopped by, brought me my Dunkin' for the morning, so we're doing good. Okay, now the only thing we have left is our bed. Once again, this is the, not that it's a bad thing, this is just a standard, I'll say old style base LDO, not LDO, but base 120 by 120 for a Voron V0. We have a Honey Badger silicone heater on it. I know the pictures here are showing the PEI bed. That's just kind of the upgrade, no big deal. I'm doing good, Westry. And now what we need to do is put in three. These are M3x20 still, right? Yep. Yeah, the only other issue I've had so far and it's not really an issue, is when we bolt the gantry on, we're using the M3x20s, and they stick out about 2.5 millimeters into the, outside the print. With the belt and everything right there, it's a little bit annoying. I know 18s would be better, and I know why you went with 20s is to minimize the number of different types and sizes of screws. So I get all that. It's just, and I think you're aware of something like that as well. So it's not like that's an unknown thing. Shouldn't matter. Shouldn't get in the way of anything. It's just one of those things that could be updated, but I get why, and that's the whole thing, is to reduce the number of different items on the bomb to make the bomb easier. It would be one of those things that me and maybe a couple of other builders will see that and be like, oh, I've got M3x18 sitting here. We'll just throw those in. And I'll say that would be a nitpick, not a criticism or anything like that. Few M3 nuts are missing in the kit, but I think I already saw a note about that in the Fabreeko kits. So what we're doing is we're putting a nut at the back of this and running it in tight against the base. So we're doing that in all three places, and that's what's going to make it so that this screw doesn't turn around so that you can adjust it later. Then secure tightly with an M3 nut on the other side. We did that. Now install a nut on each of the bolt ends, but do not tighten them down. Leave the nut about halfway down the shaft. So this is where we're going to use another nut. And these are going to make your quote unquote standoffs. We're just going to get these started on here. We're just going to try and get them about even. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these and set them down in the base plate here at lining up the 3 screw holes, and the nuts will go in and lock down in there. You might have to turn them a little bit to get them to line up with the holes. And it's going to go in there like that. So that's basically creating your standoff. Now, as you can see, my bed's not very flat. We need to solve that. And you want it to be just in line with your top plates here. So what I want to do is set that down, and I'm going to just try and look right across, or we'll take a straight edge, a ruler, and I'll set it like that, and I'm going to look through and see how close we are. As you can see, we've got a little decent gap there. Actually, that looks okay. It's too high. So the front's still a little bit too high, so we're just going to pop this out, turn the screw a couple of times, set it back down in there. And what we're trying to do is run a ruler across the plastic parts, and we shouldn't see a gap. It should be right in line there. And what I'm seeing is this side I can see a little bit of daylight through. So what I'm going to do is loosen this one a partial turn. make sure it's seated down all three sides. Then we would just take our straight edge, go across, and once again and look and see. And I think I am close. Maybe another notch over on this one. So what you're trying to do is get this as close to the plane as possible. Because if it's too low, then your bed will sag. If it's too high, as your print comes across, it will detach. And then it'll prematurely detach, and you'll have a problem. So all I'm doing is using the edge of my ruler and just making sure that I'm right on there, that I'm not teetering across the top, which would mean that the bed is then proud of the plastic, and that's going to get me close. Getting ready to do your pond, eh? Nice. Now, this bed is going to slide through and sit right in this area, which means we're going to be fairly close to where our bed connections go into. In fact, I'm going to take this bed, I'm going to bring it in this way because we're not going to be able to get it in this way very easily. We're going to set it down in place. Ah. And your wires need to come out the side because of the way your bed's going or your belt's going. It really needs to come out the side, and there is a groove down in the red plastic piece for that to get pulled around and out the side. Now, I've got a little bit of excess length here, right? I could wrap this several times in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cut this maybe down into this area here, because I don't need a huge ton of these sticking out, because all it's going to do is rub against my belt. Do you have an estimated length, Rob, if you're still hanging around? Not really? Okay. Well, I'm going to just cut this shorter. And if we need to make it even shorter here in a minute, we will do that. But for now, I'm just going to kind of, I don't know, maybe cut this length in half. Like I said, we may need to even cut it shorter than that, but that's going to be a good starting point to get rid of some of this excess. And then we've got this cable sleeve. Is this how? I don't think this cable sleeve's really needed that much. I think it's just gonna be in our way more than anything else. You want to carefully work down through here to remove this cable sleeve. Now would not be a good time to cut a cable. Okay, so now I've cut a good chunk of that cable sleeving off, and that'll make it a lot easier to work with and route my wires. I just really think that we really don't need much of this cable sleeve. At most, it protects the wires, but when you're directly underneath the bed, however, every bed that I've used, yeah, you can kill the sleeve. That's what I was thinking, because it's just going to get in the way and make this extra bulky for no real reason. And I'm going to pop this back out, and you'll notice there's a slot here. So in essence, what we kind of want to do is get our wires kind of coming down and out here, because that'll be the easiest way to route them. So yeah, let me just delete on this sleeve. Let me grab some regular scissors. That will actually make this process go a lot faster. Set this back over so I can, once again, make sure that you're not getting your wires in here, or that will be a bad day. I'm going to try and bring this sleeve down as far as I possibly can. And then we'll just yeet it right there. So I got all 4 wires up here. All 4 wires are out of the way. Okay. That's going to make life a lot easier. You know, being very, very careful around my wires. Now this could be a good spot where if you had some Kapton tape, you could throw some Kapton tape across here. And that'll even help hold it in place more. Gonna be going out that direction. Hey, there we go. Now we've got our wires coming out. That's probably still way more than we need. However, because we're going to have to get this out, kind of move the belt back to be able to get to these, that's probably not a bad amount to leave. The 2 thin red wires are going to be our bed thermistor. Yeah. I was having a thought. That thought being, I wonder if bringing the wires out this way would be easier, but you're feeding them in through the belt and then down in this way. Because you got the wheel in the way, feeding the bed in this way, I think is going to be easier. We'll see. We'll see how hard and difficult this is going to be. It may be that I'm making a mountain out of a molehill just by thinking about it without spatial awareness. Because we cut these shorter, we need to redo our thermistor crimps. When you see me loop this, I'm doing that because this is a FET cable. It's very slippery to try and get to strip them. Try not to really kink that wire. So wrap it around a couple of fingers when you're stripping that wire. Go. One of our little crimps on here. Hey, Otter's Danger Den, welcome in. Hey, 3D Medic Vents, welcome in. And where am I looking for these? One. Have you thought about building an HTLF? All right, you're gonna have to spell out HTLF. I can tell you, I've been thinking about building either getting a Tronxy VHO 600 or the Adventurer XL, and I see that Nero just got a bisect Venture XL. So I have a 2-pin over here. Once again, this is a thermistor, so polarity is not going to matter. Just need good crimps. And those are good and solid. And then once again, these are going to get ferrules. These away. These away. These can go down here so I don't knock them over. All right, sounds great. Rob? That went flying off. I'll have to find out later since that's a fiberglass insulation. Okay. These will get some ferrules. Armored's new filament changer. Oh, the Happy Turtle lettuce feeder. I've thought about it. Not saying I'm jumping on it, but I have thought about it. What's his name? Tech Cheaper? I think it was Tech Cheaper was telling me about it. He posted it on my Discord. So there's a possibility. I will tell you that there are some things coming into place for some other channel content this year. I am happy to announce that I was talking with Jason last night and Hector with Fabreeko. So Jason of LDO and Hector at Fabreeko. Hector is getting ready to send me filament, some LDO, Sparkle Turtle Green, and Turtle Gold. And I'm going to pre-print all the parts for a box turtle. And Jason is bringing me a space gray LDO frame. And I'm going to be building a box turtle on site at Rocky Mountain Rep Rat Festival. And I will be building it at my table and then taking it back over to LDO for a giveaway at the show. So somebody at the show is going to get a Digital Dragon built box turtle that's fully assembled. Yeah, so it's going to be turtle green and turtle gold on a space gray frame. Yeah, so the Happy Turtle lettuce feeder here. Yep. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So we've got our X, Y, and E. Once again, the X is the lower motor that does the side to side. Y is the upper motor that does the height. And then Z is the bed. If you have your wiring kit, if you have a kit, your wiring is all figured out, except for the bed. We had to do the bed, and we had to cut the end of the hot end and replace it with ferrules. And strongly recommend you do all the other wires first. Verify that they are correct. Well, I didn't, but they all look to be the same size, so they're all correct. Here's routing the XY motors. Here we go. So this shows putting the bed in from the right. With the way this gear is in the way, I would almost say it would be easier to come in from the left side. Is kind of the way I was lining this up. Get our wiring fed through. And get our bed kind of slid through. And flipped over like that. We should have enough room. Not enough room. I'll have to do some shenanigans here because we need to plug in these wires. Ugh. These go right next to the hot end wires. Kind of hard to show you guys here. See if I can move a couple of things around. Slide this over as close as I can. Let me bring this in. And bring this. Yeah, so we've got our bed kind of precariously sitting here upside down. We need to get our bed wires connected right here. And then our thermistor wires will come all the way across over here. So that's why I said it's a little precarious, but we'll get there. Big hands, small cramped places. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here. I like to normally hold these in, but I'm looking at that and I'm not seeing any exposed metal on the ferrule, which is good since I didn't cut these down to size. Didn't cut them down at all. But this one in. Okay, both of those are in there. And our bed thermistor, I believe, goes right next to hotend and then the bed thermistor. So this one goes right next to the other one. Way over there. Okay. Now we're going to basically rotate this over in place. Rotate this over in place. Darn hotends. There we go. Make sure our wires are going down around the side there and that the bed falls into its alignment slots. Just like that. Wires down along the side there. They're out of the way. Everything should be good there. Now we need to take our last roller. We're going to slide that through. And as we noticed before, that's going to slide down there and be in the way of the bed. Now we lift the whole bed thing back up. Make sure it's seated. Get that to the front of the bed. Come on, line up. Oh, like why is it getting stuck? It's getting stuck on the roller. There we go. That's the dance right there. Okay. And then your tension arms here go in the slot and run them the right way. Your arms will move out. So these are in there so they'll make contact with the bearings and they'll push those bearings forward. And then it'll just be a thing of getting the same tension on both sides. Definitely still loose. Trying to get these to the same, right where the bolts are right at the end. Looking to see that everything's lining up the same. This side feels like it's kind of tight and tensioned. I don't know if I've kind of compressed the front edge here some. That's why I was undoing that. Feels like it's not fully tensioned yet. Might actually run out of bolt length here. That still does not feel like the belt is tight on there. Oh, there we go. Starting to get it there. My belt might be a tad bit too long. Hector should be happy you tariff proofed. Yeah. Thanks for the lurk, sis. So here is our baby belt. Boom. There's our baby belt printer. We have assemblage. Again, I'm going to go all the way over to the side, make sure this goes all the way up to the top. We're good here on length still. Like I said, I'll get some cable sleeving to make the split loom cable sleeving. I'll make this a little bit nicer. I'll sleeve the cables and then add a couple zip ties to keep the PTFE tube and the cables in line. That'll keep anything from sagging down. Then what? What am I thinking of here? Oh, what's next? Cables are routed, beds in place. Tension, as mentioned before, to level the bed, release some of the print belt tension, then lift the heat bed off the underbed, spin the relevant exposed nut. Like I said, I think we're good. I think we're good. The question is just whether or not I'm getting enough tension on these. But we'll have to see once we can start getting our rollers going. Yeah, I need to do some tariff proofing myself. If I'm going to get a VHO or the Adventure XL, I need to do it before any tariff hits. So I got to reach out to them. But we started talking about a couple of other projects coming to the channel. We need to finish up the Trident as soon as the A3DP motor comes in. I did realize that the motor that came in from KB3D, the round pancake motor, is not the motor that I ordered. So I opened up a ticket with them to see if they can get me a new motor shipped. A3DP should be in sometime next week. And then we've got the Nebula frame, so we can start rebuilding the frame. And then by the time we get the frame built for the Ender 5 Plus 0G, the custom frame like my smaller 0G build we did, we'll get that frame built. By then, the Send-Cut Send gantry materials will be here, so we can start building our gantries. And we're basically going to tear down and move over. Programming and tuning. Let's see. Yeah, we've got that. We'll have the Elegoo Centauri coming in. We've got a Core 1 coming in. Hector had promised me a Ender 3 NG kit. So I'll be reaching out to him shortly about one of those. And so Fabreeko is sponsoring a creator space, as in a content creator space, at Ecovate, which means they're going to have at the very, I think they're going to put it in one of the corners, but they're going to have like an area where somebody can build or do things like what I'm doing right here. It's going to be a smallish area, off to the corner, camera, lights, the whole 9 yards, so that people can stream directly from the store. So since Fabreeko is going to sponsor that area, I'm thinking I may wind up building the Ender 3 Next Gen from the store and build it there on stream from the store. That might be pretty cool. So default build is Marlin, but Clipper is great. A full Clipper guide is TBD. For Marlin, download the compiled firmware and stick it on a FAT32 formatted micro SD card. So we'll need to do that. Yeah, nothing on here. This did not come with an SD card. That SD card needs to be 16, no more than a 32 gig SD card, because it would be wasted space. You would have to partition it down to work on it. So you might as well just use like a 16 gig card, of which I think I've got one or two of those. 8 gig SAN disk, 16 gig PNY, and if for whatever reason this doesn't work, I do have some 32 giggers that we can use. So I got this. I need the reader. And do I have my extension key? It is downstairs. Give me 1 second, folks. I will be right back. I will let you look at the baby belt in all of its glory, and I will be right back. Nope. No, I won't be. Because I do have the extension cable sitting right here. I'd already brought it upstairs. Okay. Get this plugged in. I know I'm not the first one to say this, but when dealing with USB drives or USB cables as a whole, you've got a 50-50 chance. I am wrong probably 98% of the time with a 50-50 chance. Like, this is bad. Okay, so I just plugged this in to my computer. Did anything pop up? No. Okay. External drive connected, scan for threat. Taking your time. What's going on here? Oh. It saw it for like half a second. Apparently, it might not like this 16 gig card. So we'll grab one of my 32 gig SanDisk. Or I guess we can go, we don't need huge. This is Marlin, right? Duh. Grab an 8 gig. And SanDisk 8 gig. Hey, there we go. We've got something. So I'll come back over here to full display. We now have our USB drive showing up. I have no idea what's on it. Not much anything. I am going to go ahead and format this. FAT32 is the default. That's exactly what we need. Quick format. Start. Yes. Blow everything away. Format is complete. Bring this back up, and there is our USB drive. Now, did I download all the baby belt files to this computer? That looks like a resounding no. Okay. Let me pop back up to the top here, see if he has a link to the GitHub. No. Oh, I've already got the link. That helps. Software, firmware, Marlin or Clipper. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and do Marlin for this. We've got a binary for a mini EV or mini E3 V3. There's a zip there. Firmware for Fabreeko kit.bin. That sounds like the right one that we need. Click on that. Yep, download raw file. And that's now down. Okay, so programming and tuning. Starting the printer main board on the side, and power up the printer, plugging it in and flipping the switch. If all goes well, a little blinking red light on the board will flash rapidly. Screen will turn on and go no printer connected in the upper right. After 30 seconds or so, the red light will change. The screen should now say Baby Belt Pro, the no printer connected prompt gone. Okay. Hey, Von Deathheart, how's it going? We are fully built now. Got our belt on. We got what I think is an initial tension there. I think we'll be good. I'll have to figure out. We may have to do another twist or two to make sure that we're fully on there. But I think we're good. What we're doing right now is we just downloaded the firmware Fabreeko kit.bin file. We're going to click on that, right click, bring it down to our USB drive that we just formatted. Now, here's something to remember. I don't think it will take firmware Fabreeko kit.bin. It's been a while since I've done Marlin. Just going to rename it. And we'll take it down to just firmware.bin. Yep. Okay, we'll pop out something else. We'll right click and eject that. Say to remove that hardware. That's good. Pull it out of our reader. Leave this off to the side. And what we're going to do, take our card reader, stick it in the card slot over here. Maybe card slot. Go. Issue. Go. There. No, maybe so. Alrighty. Can I do a little bit of downward pressure here? So the board is up ever so slightly, which is making it very hard to get that card in. I'm going to try not to snap that card. Oh, what are we going to have to do here? Yeah, oh yeah, that's way proud. Oh man, we have to do something. What am I going to do here? Trying to think through the least amount of dismantling to do what I'm probably going to need to do. The board is sitting proud, and that it's not lining up with the slot. So I think what I'm going to do is take the XY axis off. Because that might be able to get me in there so I can get my fat fingers in there. Okay. Probably a good thing that I just had to do this. Because I just encountered another problem. I'm going to take this off. Can you see what my problem might be? Let me go full bench side here. This bracket broke. So I don't know why that bracket broke, but I think what I'm going to do, bear with me momentarily. So I'm not sure why, but it broke at the side joint here. I don't know if I can get that back together with some PETG gloop. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up some. Because what I need to do is get to the bed up and out, roller up and out. Seriously, bed up and out. Here we go. Roller, bed out, roller out. Kind of sit there. I need to get to this board. And something, like I said, just is not sitting right. So we'll get this board going. So that we can get this, try and get this aligned a little bit better. Blame Rob. Yeah, I'm not going to blame Rob. I've noticed that particular, like I had to reprint these in ABS because I kept snapping them on the layer lines. Now this just snapped on the layer lines, but the first one I did didn't. So I think this has picked up maybe a lot of moisture out of the air. And because I was open air printing it, shouldn't matter that much, but I was. I'm going to try and just do this without taking the board completely out, if I can just loosen these two. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm reprinting both of these side pieces in red ABS. I don't want to go through and change all of the printed parts, but as I have print failures like that and that magenta PET G, I will go through and swap those over. Like I said, I don't think that's anything to do with the files. I think it has to do with the material, and it may have picked up some water. Blame him in a joking way? That could be. Hey, Hutch Makerspace, how's it going? Hey, Pez, welcome on in. How are you doing today, Liz? We're doing great. I noticed that I've got a slightly untensioned belt here all of a sudden. I couldn't get the SD card in, so I had to go and make sure that this was screwed down all the way. With those two things done, we should be able to pull the front roller forward and get it down in its slot. Bring the bed forward. Get it down in its slots. Kind of do a little bit of pre-tensioning on our belts. Bring our belt tensioners in. Retension that belt. Really needs to be tensioned like way almost all the way done. Go. Now, PET G part. Let me see if I can apply right now a goodly amount of PET G based gloop. Never used this one. Used the PLA, but I've never used this. I've had this for a couple of years. It's just been sitting there, so hopefully it's not solid. We'll have to let this sit for a couple of minutes to get rid of all the bubbles and stuff that we just threw into it. Meanwhile, do you guys mind if I have a donut hole? So meanwhile, while we're waiting, we bring something up if I can find it. And I'll go ahead and once again, for those of you that are in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, once again, next weekend on Saturday, April 26th, from noon to 3 p.m., we'll be doing the first ever maker meetup at Echovate 3D. They're located at 6701 Glenwood Avenue here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it's going to be very informal. This is our first meetup. So, come on in, show off your latest projects. Work areas will be available to us. We'll have power and a few tables set up. Share and collaborate and ask questions and just have fun. It's a chance to come and hang out with other like-minded makers. It doesn't have to be 3D printing. It could be electronics projects. It can be, if you're trying to do an upgrade or want to discuss upgrades to a printer or a problem you're having with a print, bring that stuff out, show it off, let's talk, and just have fun hanging out together. This is going to become a monthly event. Because of this event, next week's stream is going to be delayed. We're either going to do it later at night or what have you. But we'll either pick another day for our stream or we'll stream later Saturday night and just make a big day of it. Yeah, Luke will fix your printer. That's true. You come out and you can see the Optimus P1 that we've been working on. So you'll have a chance to see a printer that most people probably will never buy or get to see something at that size. And I'll probably continue. I'll have to keep working on it. It's printing, just not printing really well. So it still needs some work on it. And we're seriously thinking about just completely redesigning a tool head for it and putting a tube on it. All right, let's see. Like I said, I've never used the pet version. I've had this forever. It's still been in its container. I don't know if it's... Oh, yeah. That's not going to do us any good. It's completely dried out. So, well, dang. I guess we won't be dealing with gloop at all. Let's try some good old-fashioned heaping amount of CA glue. See if we can hold that together long enough to get something played around on it. So when I went and put this together, it apparently split and I didn't notice it. I need to poke a hole in the top of that. Where are my acupuncture needles? Tip on it. Hey Liz, did you see what I did with my acupuncture needles? Nope. Not up there either. Not back there. Okay. Maybe we'll have to grab the brand new bottle. Not like having 2 or 3 open bottles of super glue is a bad thing, huh? That's definitely dried up. Yeah, I have heard that putting it in the fridge is actually good and keeps it useful longer, but I just have never put it in the fridge. Okay. Let's grab new bottle. Yeah, apparently I do have to clip off the tip of this. Help. Yeah, and that would have helped, except now we've completely lost the angle. What screen would you made up with a Big Tree Tech MP8? The Big Tree Tech TFT SPI screen. It's the only one I would made up because it's the only one that will work with it. And I don't think that this quick fix here is going to work. So I'm printing new parts. This is not going to work. It's going to take a little bit of time just because I'm making them out of ABS, and I'm going to make them super robust so we don't have this issue again. Can I still apply power though and get this to do its thing? I don't know. Was this the correct side for the spare? No, this is the right side that I printed twice. So that one won't work. Let's see. We should be able to go ahead and turn this on. I don't think it's going to try and move anything right off the bat. So put a couple of things away. And we will basically just plug in the power, see if we can get this thing to at least take its whatchamacallit, its firmware update. We do use an external power brick on this. But yeah, with the Manta MP8, same one we used on the Trident. It's the, I think it's a TFT 3.5 SPI. Because with the Manta, well, let me rephrase that. If you're putting a CB1 or CB2 on your Manta board, your only option is an SPI screen because they don't support the DSI screens on the CB modules. If you're running a CM4 or CM5, meaning an actual Raspberry Pi compute module, then you can run the standard DSI display and run pretty much whatever you want. Or at least you'll get more options with the DSI. Okay, so DC plug. We're going to go into our DC plug jack. Got a blue light over here on our power supply. We're going to plug this in. We might actually we got the flashy light already because apparently I didn't realize that I'm in the on position already. And boom, we've got a screen. So I would say we're flashed and we're good to go. We would have an issue because our x-axis is kind of messed up, but we would be able to check some things out. Testing in tune, warm up the hot end and make sure the fan on the heat sink spins. So we can do that. We don't need any movement for that to happen. So now, is this a touch screen? I think it is. It is. So Can we can go into increments of 10C. We're going to take it up to 55C, which should make this heat up to 55. And our hot end cooling fan, and I should be able to pick this up and move it around. So this should come on once we're up over 50. It's not. So that's a little concerning. It's trying. Oh, wait. Part cooling fan is running, so our fans are backwards. Our fans are backwards. So we'll need to get that fixed. And the other thing I'm looking at, let me see if I can bring you all in here and I'll show you this. First time I've looked at the hot end here like this, so you see where our hot end tip is at, and our fan opening is way over here. It's almost like this should have been rotated 90 degrees. Because that would move this a little over here and be closer. Now I did assemble the tool head the exact way that it was supposed to be assembled, so yeah, the only way you would be able to do that is if you bring your power cables and stuff up along the printed part side instead of the fan side, which is where it's supposed to be. So Rob, if you're still here, that might be a little wonky. Still may print or have fine part cooling. Don't know. It does not look like it lines up well to me on the part cooling. If I have installed something wrong, let me know. But our fans are backwards between our hot end fan and our part cooling fan. I'm going to come up here to the wiring diagram. Part cooling fan at the bottom, hot end fan at the top. So chances are I just plugged the wrong one into the wrong way. Good thing I'm printing both because both of these have now broken. So I'm printing both of those. So what we need to do is turn this off. And we'll need to swap those two fans, which are not going to be that easy to get to. So we're going to have to untension everything, kind of pull the bed and roller out. You can pull the wings out. I'll go ahead and remove my DC jack so I don't have power going to it. Start to pull that roller back. Reach in here and lift our bed out. Bed goes up. Roller comes out. Now I just need to swap these two fans around. And like I said, this is most likely 100% an issue of me not putting the right fan in the right place. Okay, now we'll drop our roller back down in the slot, bring our bed up and drop the bed mount back into its slot, getting the wires out of the way. Here we go. Push this forward. Slide our tensioner back in. And tighten our tensioners again. And I just realized you guys didn't see a darn bit of that because I'm way too zoomed in. There we go. So, sorry about that. Looks pretty good. Plug that back in. Turn it on. Got our Big Tree Tech. Everything comes back up. It says no printer connected. That just went away. Now what we're going to do is come back over to our tool head and we'll raise this up. Make it 60. And now we should have this fan going, which it is. Our hot end should be heating up. Which it is. I only have it to 60°C, so it's not going to be too hot. It did overshoot a little bit, so we do need to PID tune this. Now what I want is when I turn this off, once it drops down under 50, the fan should go off. And it did. So that's good. Go back. Now what we can do is we can go to the bed. We're just going to try and heat this up. What was that? Unknown command. Okay. Just going to try and heat this up to 50, and I'm just going to stick my finger in there and kind of feel around and see if I feel it warming up. So the bed is not heating at all. I told it to go to 50. It's not heating at all. Why is the bed not heating at all? Okay. Do we get a part cooling fan? I'm assuming this is what it is. Yep, part cooling fan. Kind of doesn't like half, but part cooling fan does work. So our fans are working, our hot end heater's working, our bed heater told us to go pound sand. So our bed's reading 0. It should, you would think, be reading room temperature. So we have an issue with our bed thermistor. So that means taking it back out, shutting it off, and we're going to have to look at our bed thermistor and see if we have a bad crimp or something. I don't know why we would have a bad crimp, but there's something wrong because we're reading 0 degrees and the bed's saying no bueno. Let me see. We have print, menu. What do we have from the menu? Heat, fan, movement, load, unload, emergency stop, terminal window, custom, settings, and back. What do we have in settings? Screen, connection, machine, and feature. Tuning. We can PID tune, we can tune our steps, and we can do a hot end offset. Those are kind of neat. So can we PID tune the hot end while we're here? PID tune, auto tune, toolhead 0. Let's go to, we'll do standard PLA temp. I'll go to 210. They start. Auto tune may take some time to complete. Continue. Okay. And now it's going to start the process. I just heard our hot end fan kick on. So you see if I can turn this around some. Probably not. So our hot end fan is doing hot end fan things. I need to be careful moving this around because this side is starting to, process is aborted. Why did the process abort? Because I was moving things? We'll give that a shot again. And I will try not to touch it this time. And the process aborted again. So something is up there. It's not liking that. Don't know why. Gonna keep going back. Yeah, I mean it was up to 190, 190, 198. Ooh, you know what? Is there a temperature limitation in here? I do not know. Testing and tuning. From the hot end, make sure the fan on the heatsink spins. If it does not, turn on immediately after 50 degrees. Turn off the printer, check your fan wiring. You'd recommend a PID tune. Yeah, I wonder if I'm telling, oh, yeah, it's probably, so on a belt printer, you're most likely only going to be printing PLA. If you try and do PETG, you're probably going to have a bad day. So I have a feeling, me trying to tell it to go up to like 210 or 220, that when it overshoots, it goes out of range and aborts. So we're going to go into settings, machine, tuning, PID. We have 10-degree increments, so we're going to go up. Let's just go to 200. Now let's start the PID tune. This way, when it overshoots, it should not overshoot too far. That would cause it to do the abort. So how's everybody doing this Saturday on this fine Easter weekend? And it process aborted again. And I don't like that I don't have a temperature reading on that screen. Yeah, so it was at 198, so it way overshot it. Yeah. It's way overshooting. We're not getting any temperature reading on the bed, which is throwing us for a loop. So I'm going to let this cool down for a bit. And once the fan comes off, we'll go ahead and power it down. We'll pull the bed and stuff back out. And we'll take a look and try and see if we can't figure out what's crimping on the the bed thermistor wires as to why we're not getting a reading there. Yeah, because I'm getting 0 temperature reading on the bed itself. Does anybody have any big plans for the weekend? – 30% done there. Okay. Like usual, no big plans. I get that. We're like I said, after stream today, we're gonna bounce on over and go see my parents in Goldsboro, which is like an hour and a half drive. Gonna go see my parents and my niece and hang out with them for a little bit, and then we will come back. I gotta go help Evil Diesel do some stuff. And then yeah, that's all I have planned for the weekend. I think we're supposed to have high winds, so not going to be able to do some of the yard work we wanted to do. All right, let's try and see if we can figure out why this is having a bad day. Wire is good. Do I have, like, it's not reading at all. I wonder, I don't know if you would think the Fabreeko kit, since it comes with the heater, that it would have but hold on, let me think through this. Because if it had the heater set up, and you weren't running a heater, it would it should do an automatic thermal shutdown because it's not reading anything on the heater. I'm just trying to think if this is an issue where the firmware may be set up to not use a heated bed, but no, if it's reading 0, then there is a problem with the wires itself, and I wonder if I may have, did I pinch a wire? Let's pull the bed and check. It's not going to hurt us. I mean, we're kind of down and out at the moment right now anyhow because of the need to get those gantry parts reprinted. Pull these wires, and let's pull the bed platform out. Kind of look and see if maybe somehow we bent or somehow damaged a wire, which I might have by doing that large bend to it. See if we can just do something like this where it's not as bent. Okay, capped on tape. Our friend capped on tape. I can do some RTV. The problem with RTV is it's going to take forever for RTV to do its thing. So let me see what a large amount of capped on tape would do, other than roll up and get stuck. Well, and even stick it in here to that silicone heated pad. And of course, I don't know that there's no branding on either roll of my capped on tape, so I don't know if it's like the true real deal or just some knockoff. Yeah, we call it that tape. I do know that it doesn't like going above like 300C. It kind of did complain and completely melt when I did that. But this is on a bed, so it's never going to get up that high. Especially a bed on a PLA printer. So let's see if that will solve the problem. I really doubt very seriously if those crimps are bad. Okay, and now I'm getting 27 degrees. So I had too much of a bend on those wires. So that was the issue. I had too much of a bend on those thermistor wires and they were not happy. So we'll turn that back, turn it back off, pull the plug. Now we can go ahead and wire our bed back in and get our base and stuff back on here. What the heck? Pull this back out. Okay. Just realized looking at this that some of my screws have turned a bit. So that one there. That one there. This one's high. Still looks a little high. those are good. We'll plug this back in. Okay. Roller. The roller down there. Roll this forward. Before we go through and do too much, let's plug it in and make sure we're still getting a reading and that I'm not somehow pinching a wire somewhere. And we still have a reading here. Or no, that's temp, that's that. We don't have a bed temp reading. What is, come on now. Why? Why don't we have a bed temp reading? We just had one. Why are we now not getting it again? Or was I looking at the wrong one? Darn you. Why am I not getting a bed temp? All right. Well, we'll do an ohm check. I really hope it's not something as silly as they it's got a different thermistor setting, because that would be kind of annoying. Ohm check. Do you know what the ohm should be on the thermistor? Because I don't think I've ever checked to see what they should be. I mean, I'm obviously going to be able to tell if there's resistance, but I'm not going to have a clue as to what that resistance should look like. You go there, you go there. 93.6 ohms. Whoops. 0.3 ohms. There we go. 0.3 ohms. No nicked wire. It's now nicely bent in an S, so there's not a big crimp on it or anything. Um, I mean, fed in. Heated up should change. It if it was reading 0 as a starting temp, I mean, it should be reading ambient temp, which should be something other than 0. You know, normally it would be like 20 something Celsius. Yeah, it depends on what thermistor is used. And that's where I'm wondering, like, are they, well, no, if it was getting, if they had entered a different thermistor type, it should still read something. It would just read something really wonky. Yeah, I'm getting 00 on the bed. And as soon as I touch something, unknown command M410 S10 or M140 S10. I'm wondering if maybe they don't have the bed configured in this precompiled firmware. Because we are using a precompiled firmware. You're guessing the wire is broke at heater. I grabbed I'm in the Baby Belt Pro. Here, let me show you where I'm at. Baby Belt Pro, software, firmware, Marlin, firmware, Fabreeko kit. So that's what I did was I grabbed the Fabreeko kit, assuming that would be right. From 3 months ago. Motor current for X and Y may be high, depends on motors. Try around 300 milliamps. You need to set the steps for your extruder. Okay. And that's the reason I did um, the firmware for the Fabreeko kit, but it's a bin file, so I have no idea how it was set up. Oh, hey, Giggy Jack, welcome in. Sorry for not seeing that earlier. Going over to see Mom for Easter. Okay, Eagle. What's in the zip? Don't know. I did not download that. Download that. We'll take a look. Looks like that's going to be the okay. Looks like it's just Marlin setup. Yeah, it's just straight Marlin files. Um, I'd have to basically open it up. And quite honestly, I haven't done Marlin in a couple of years. So I would have to like really dig in and try and figure out how to even work around in Marlin again. Thermistors are solid-state resistors that change resistance with temperature. They typically have a resistance range between 100 and 100 mega ohms. With most commonly used thermistors having a negative temperature coefficient, meaning their resistance decreases as temperature increases. Yeah, so here's a thought. Most, let me say that again. Most thermistors are like 3950 generic, especially the ones on your beds, right? What am I looking for? Oh, you know what? Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. In here. No, they're not. Did I? Back already. Looking for my pile of extras. Oh, I know where they're at. What I'll do is I'll grab a known good thermistor. And we'll pop one in. And we'll see if we get a reading. This is just a set of known good standard thermistors. If we get a reading, I'm not going to say that this is bad yet. I will just say that it may be a poor crimp. And I'm not getting a reading. So that really, really screams to me that it may not be configured. The other thing that we can do to even more resolutely confirm that, we'll unplug the hot end thermistor and we'll plug in the bed. And if we get a reading of 25C on the T0 thermistor now, that tells me it's nothing wrong with the thermistor, it's that port is not being configured. Because if I pull this out, should drop the reading to 0. Plug the other one back in. And now it's reading 23. So that's the issue. The bed heater is not turned on in the default firmware. So I'm potentially chasing a wiring issue that isn't a wiring issue. Kind of where we're going with that. And by the way, folks, do not be plugging and unplugging your wires with your printer turned on. Really not a good thing to do. Way, way too many chances for a short. Now, I have no idea how this is configured. And I wish Rob was here. To walk me through this. I think the profile, Kirimoda, Idea Maker. Okay, so that's the slicer profile. Firmware, Marlin. There is Clipper in here. So I definitely know in Clipper we can do it real quick. Yeah, it probably does have the configs, and that's and that's the problem is I'm going to have to, let's go figure out how to do Marlin again, because Digital Dragon has not done Marlin in quite a while. So we're going to have to figure out how to update the config. And quite honestly, I know Rob has made a comment of the motors have specific voltage settings for them. They don't overheat the motors. And I have no idea what those settings are either. I can kind of look at the settings in the Clipper config. But normally, like if I can get in, see, he just has the binary for the Fabreeko kit. If you had the full setup, then you'd be golden. Right now, if I go back and start working on the base Marlin config, I don't know if it's configured with the options of the Fabreeko kit or if it's configured with self-source options. Which becomes a pain in the butt because I have no way of easily pulling out those configs. Maybe. I don't know. Now here's the thing. Right now I don't have a thermistor, therefore I do not have a heater. I also have no way of easily telling why I can't PID, because every time I go to PID, it throws an error, and that tells me that the PID config, or the set point of the temp is set low. Let me go in here to the printer config. Let's see. Does he make any notes in here about this config is based off parts in the Fabreeko kit. If you're self-sourced, there will need to be additional tuning. Okay. Include this, that, and that. Okay. Extruder. There's a PID config. Max temp is 300. So if the max temp is set to 300, there's no reason why that PID should be failing or aborting. Okay, let me think. So I have a bunch of Raspberry Pi Zero V1s, or 11s. V011s. What is this? Another V011. So I have several V011s. And a 02. So the 11 I think would be fine. I would not be able to connect it via UART. I'd have to go whatchamacallit, I'd have to go USB connections. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is I got a Raspberry Pi. I could set up Clipper and look at it that way. I just don't want to do a full Raspberry Pi. And this would probably work just fine on a 1.1 because it's not like we're doing input shaping and stuff. So I shouldn't have to burn my only Raspberry Pi 02. And at the very least, pull a 5-volt power source. What do we have on this board? We're in the TFT display. God, it's been a while. Big Tree Tech. What do we got here? This is a Z-probe port. We're going into the TFT, which is usually where you're going to pull your UART from. So we won't be able to do UART, but I should be able to pull 5-volt and ground from somewhere. Screen maybe. Folks, let me put you on mute real fast. I got to take this call. Sorry, folks. Yeah, that was Mama Dragon trying to set stuff up and let us know what time things are going. So, Free Heathen, we had everything configured, and I had some parts that broke. So I'm reprinting these side mounts. So I'll go ahead and get those swapped out. We can get it back on here. I've loaded up the Marlin config for the Fabreeko kit, and it doesn't have the thermistor setting for the bed. And from the Marlin config, there's a binary, and then there's a set of files, right? So there's a set of Marlin files. So if I come in here for firmware with Marlin, there's a bin file for the Fabreeko kit, and then there's Marlin BB Pro 2, but I don't know if it's set up for self-source or for the Fabreeko kit. There's no notes that tell me that that is the Fabreeko kit config. And I know that Rob has said several times that there are specific motor voltages for this. So what we're actually doing now is, do we come over here to Clipper? Whoops. Because looking at the printer config for the Clipper, it specifically says this is based off the parts in the Fabreeko kit. If you sell source, you'll need to do some additional tuning. So I'm trying to figure out, do I do one of these or do I do a full Pi? I'm probably going to do one of these, but I need to power it somehow. I can't do 24 volt directly to it, so I'm going to have to pull 5 volt from somewhere. So I'm just trying to figure out where the best place to pull 5 volt from. We're not using the EXP connector, and there is a 5 volt and ground right there. We're also not using the the SPM connector, which is this set of connectors right here. So I should be able to pull 5-volt and ground from there as well. Just going to have to get 5-volt and ground to this. And quite honestly, for a temp setup, why not use USB? Yeah, I mean, I can plug it in and run it off a wall wart and just do USB for now. Yeah, that might work just to validate things. Yeah, this one should work for, yeah, this one will work for the 0. Which means we'll have to reflash the board with the firmware for the board. And let me just come up here and do a full download so we have it all local. We're going to need a card for the Raspberry Pi. I'm not going to try and use that 16 gig anymore. Oh yeah. All right, folks, hold on. Mrs. Dragon calling now. Okay, folks, so here's what we're going to do. Mama Bear's called, or Mama Dragon's called, and now Mrs. Dragon has called. She is en route. So this is going to have to wait. I really wanted to do the Marlin setup and do the whole Monty, but apparently there's no bed setup in that. So we're going to have to talk to Rob. I'll try and ping him with that. Or I guess look at the Baby Belt Pro Discord some and see if there's a quick and easy fix for it. If not, then I will come back and we'll set up, we'll try and get our, clipper set up on the Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi 0 V11, which should work fine. I don't have one with headers on it, but I think I have headers that I can at least throw the ones I need on there. If not, I'll direct solder some wires so that we can pull power and ground. And then it'll just be the case of having to reflash everything and set it up. But I'm going to try and figure that out between now and the next stream. But, oh, we're in ads. My bad. Let me let the ad finish and then I'll run through that all again. Okay, so ad break's over. Everybody is definitely back now. So here's the issue is the Marlin config does not have settings for the bed. I'm trying to do a PID tune on the hot end and that is failing. And going and looking at the Clipper firmware, it says that it's based on the Fabreeko kit settings. And the max temp of the hot end is 300. If it's 300, I should not be failing a PID temp when trying to do a PID to 200 degrees. But it seems anytime it overshoots 200, it fails and aborts the PID temp through the display of running the automated PID temp or PID tune for the hot end in Marlin. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set up the ability to do a clipper-based install here, and I will test that out. I will also go and look at the um, Discord for the baby belt and see if this has already been brought up in there and if there's a quick and simple fix before I do the clipper thing. But right now, I've been given the warrant order by both the wife and the mother. So that tells me I need to get off the stream and be ready to immediately jump in the car and head out. So I've got to cut the stream for today. Thank you all for being here. Let me see who we could potentially raid over to, who's up and running. Rick's O'Brien, Foxen. Not a lot. Not a lot. I'm going to go ahead and set up a raid over to Ugly Moo. Like I said, sorry, I know this is kind of abrupt, but it's a family holiday weekend and I got to go do family holiday stuff. So you all take it easy. I will see you all Tuesday at the latest, if not beforehand. I'm going to do more research on this. Let me get the raid started to Ugly Moo. And please jump over there and join me, folks. And I will see you guys next time. Hey, Liz, happy Easter to you. Welcome everybody for being, or thank you everybody for being here. And yeah, everybody have a great, safe weekend. I will see you guys next week, hopefully with some even, some more news. Yeah, we'll just leave it that way. See everybody at Rocky Mountain coming up soon. And remember, next weekend, we've got the Maker Meetup here in Raleigh, North Carolina. So if you're here, please come out to Echovate 6701 Glenwood Avenue, Suite 104. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Bye now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you once again for being here and sticking through the whole video. If you like what you see, please be sure to click the like button below and subscribe. And if you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell so you get notified of new content as it's made available. You will have YouTube suggesting a new video right over here. Thanks now. Have a great day.